Hey y'all, I'm Jeff, and in my opinion, it's normal, if not expected, to go through phases when you've been around for nearly 3 decades. Whether it's an emo one or a cross-dressing one, the Pokémon anime is no stranger to testing the waters, even if those waters eventually dry up. Let's look at some of the aspects of the series that have gone from common to more of a rare candy. Real-life writing. I'd assume that most people here are aware that Pokémon's a Japanese franchise, though I often wonder if the average fan thinks of it that way. It would be easier to connect the dots if some of those earlier aspects were still present, a big one being Japanese text and writing. Real-world writing has been present since the pilot. Just about every series that I can think of uses its native text to some extent. It's only Pokémon that's been relegated to these squiggles. So, why did this happen? There's never been a confirmed answer, but we can look to the source of life's problems: 4Kids. With 4Kids, text had typically been handled in one of 3 ways. Often, it'd be completely removed. This isn't exclusive to Pokémon, it's a practice 4Kids was well known for, even when the text was originally in English. You know, because kids are illiterate and these assorted shapes would scare them off. So, the first localizers of the anime, if they're anything, it's consistent. At least when it comes to Americanizing. See, the text here has been entirely erased. Was it really necessary to translate? No, they literally just told us what these creatures were called a second ago. However, this is a sample of a practice that likely had permanent repercussions for the series. Japanese text is present all throughout Kanto. Despite me calling 4Kids consistent a moment ago, how they handled writing did vary. In the first episode, the redundant starter names were completely removed. A couple times, 4Kids would do what dubbers are supposed to do and translate. Take this poster from episode 5. To me, if you're going to localize, it should look like this. They've perfectly conveyed the feeling of the original. Almost. They added a black background to Pokémon League and gave regional championships a yellow text, but we won't be picky here. This is perfectly acceptable. Another common practice was to erase the text, but treat us to a little doodle. I just picked a random episode. This is the first episode I picked and it has a text change. That's how frequent this was. You see, we have text that says, "You idiot." Well, that's not very nice. I guess 4Kids agreed because they just copy and pasted that drawing up top. Text be gone. The last instance of Japanese writing inserted into the show was in the early Orange Islands. Fukubiki, well, that's a fun one to go out on. Here's why I believe Japanese text stopped showing up. It's possible that as the anime went global around this time, the producers noticed these edits occurring internationally. Maybe then they took it upon themselves to stop the practice as a courtesy. 4Kids and the producers also seem tight. The 4th US opening is composed of custom-made scenes requested by the dubbers. Sometimes 4Kids had money to blow. For example, them actually sprucing up and adding words to Brawley Sign in AG20. Okay, I take it back, 4Kids isn't consistent at all. In regards to the text, it's also possible 4Kids went to the producers like, "Hey, could you guys maybe tone it down a bit?" So, as to avoid having the characters holding books with odd-looking blank pages, they opted to create their own language. One that wouldn't need to be erased, even though sometimes it still is. Whoops. It's actually changed a few times. In XY, the corresponding letters are swapped with this mumbo-jumbo. However, in black and white, the language can appear as slightly altered versions of the Latin alphabet. Honestly, I'm torn about the situation. On one hand, 4Kids has conditioned me well, and Japanese text does seem out of place in the series, which is somewhat unfortunate. On the other hand, the 90s was not the time to be flaunting foreign content. A lot of anime went mainstream because it appealed to Western audiences. Sailor Moon's protagonist is a blonde girl who went from Usagi to Serena. Dragon Ball's a little in between, but if you put it next to something like Rurouni Kenshin, you notice the aesthetic differences. Since Pokémon doesn't take place on Earth, I think the made-up text gives the benefit of putting the series in its own unique universe. Even if we do still sometimes get English, you know, as a pleasant surprise. Though, for the vast majority of the series, human language is a no-go. Mei, the second female lead of the anime, needs little introduction. I'd argue she had the biggest shoes to fill of the Poké Girls, coming off the iconic heels of the tomboyish mermaids. So iconic, they would give Misty roles in 3 succeeding series. Matter of fact, in Pokémon Journeys, all of Ash's previous companions had made cameos. Serena got an episode, Dawn got a special, Iris was in the Masters 8, the whole Sun and Moon cast returned. But Mei, well, she got to hold hands with Serena. Why then did Mei not get a main role in Journeys when everyone else did? Well, except Max, because that would be very strange without Mei. The reasoning is unfortunate. Her Japanese actress Kaori had a dang successful career. She was a known vocalist and voice actress. She even sings one of the ending themes. "I won't lose! Haruka's theme!" I feel like you have to read it in that inflection. It's a song so good the instrumental even made it into the dub. You can tell the lass has pipes. Sadly, Kaori came down with spasmodic dysphonia. Not a lot is known about this illness, even the cause. It makes the throat muscles spasm and constrict when you speak. Due to that, Kaori's paused her career. In Japan, it isn't common to replace voice actors unless there's a death or some juicy scandal. Unlike the US, where you could be replaced for sneezing wrong. Since Kaori is still alive and well, and hopefully will recover someday, Mei finds herself in a gray area, one where she can only make speechless appearances. Many fans may not know this since Mei's debut was in the often regarded forgettable generation. Still, she was one of the highlights of AG. Max was there too. If the first cast was to return, I'd love to see Kaori among them. Meanwhile, in the dub, Michelle Knotts kept them bills paid, continuing to voice Jessie for centuries to come. Blackface Jinx. This one's more common knowledge, but it's still fun to discuss. Like, the fact this was even allowed to air on 4Kids television kinda boggles the mind considering they've censored for less. I suppose Jinx got away with it for so long by not being a human. But by the year 2000, Carol Weatherford had seen enough. She published a widely circulated article on the racial implications of Jinx. I guess she also called her a drag queen? Since then, Jinx has even been featured in the Jim Crow Museum of Racist Memorabilia. I mean, that's intense. The ramifications of this for Jinx have been plenty. An entire episode in Season 5 went undubbed because it featured a Jinx. 4Kids would really go out of its way where possible to avoid giving Jinx any attention. Hey, look, more of the scribbles. As you know, in 2002, Game Freak would change Jinx's design to purple for the Gold and Silver release and beyond. This was partially due to purple being an easy color to transition from black in the games. Slowly but surely, the anime would catch up as well with this visual edit. AG 169 would be the first time Jinx would debut with purple skin, and the last, since she has not made an appearance since. They washed the blackface taste out and called it a day. Not to be sensitive, but ultimately I think this was for the best. Evidently Jinx is based on Yama-Uba, an ice yokai, or mystical being that's kinda just a hag. The problem is, no one outside of Japan would know that. Go right now and ask your grandma what a yokai is. Let me know what she says. Not that I think Pokemon has to cater to Western sensibilities, but we can tell from the language thing, it's something they want to do. I think most people would agree this change is reasonable. It's funny though how it becomes a different story with Blue Popo. People tend to go a lot harder on Dragon Ball's edits than Pokemon's. Maybe that's because Dragon Ball is accredited as Toriyama's work, and people, for better or worse, want to honor his vision. Pokemon doesn't have that same sort of human attachment, so these edits don't feel like disrespecting a particular person's art. Or it's just different fandoms, who knows? Well, purple lives matter. The move, Earthquake. Although it was accessible as early as Gen 1 in the form of a TM, Earthquake wouldn't appear in the series until AG 75. The move has not been used again in nearly 1,000 episodes. Not for lack of trying. Actually, the advanced generation got a bit carried away with it. The original AG 101 would have featured the move again, but went unaired, even in Japan. All we really know is it was titled Shaking Island Battle, Barboa vs. Whiscash. Poor Whiscash got greedy. The reason it got skipped was due to sensitivity about earthquakes that hit Niigata, Japan a few weeks prior. At the end of the day, this loss of this probably filler episode isn't a big deal. But this situation would repeat in Black and White. Originally, BW 23 and 24 were planned to be a two-part face-off between Team Rocket and Team Plasma. Now that sounds exciting. Well, it remains fanon since similarly, Tohaku Japan was hit with a devastating earthquake nearly a week prior to its airing. Subsequently, the episodes were pulled, but a script was made publicly available. I guess that move is bad luck, so it and ones alike such as Magnitude and Fisher have never appeared since. And lastly, Ash Ketchum. Hope that didn't hit too close to home. We can expand this further into the whole main cast of the Ashname. The current series, Pokemon Horizons, of course, has a new leading lady, Liko, and she's delightful. The Horizons cast has genuinely been fleshed out more than one might expect, though this fun new entourage has come at the expense of the previous. There has been some Easter eggs like this boy in a beach episode who resembles Misty. There's also Freed, who's been given Ash's most iconic Kanto mons. Then Liko, whose pen resembles the symbol from Ash's Kanto hat. Boy, did that get the daughter theories raging. Besides that, nearly 100 episodes in, no references have been made to the prior group. Horizons has even gone out of its way to erase what could be perceived as references. I do admire them giving Horizons its own identity and letting it stand on its own feet. Although, I won't lie, every now and then I do miss the boy. Do I think Ash will return eventually? I'm confident he will, and we all know it's gonna make the Pokemon Company a lot of money too. However, we're still only shy of just 2 years since he left, and distance makes the heart grow fonder, as they say. I bet they're gonna put a few years in between his departure and return to let that fondness grow. I will add, we'll never see another protagonist with Ash's legacy. My assumption is Liko and Roy will have 3, maybe 6 years max. After that, I think they'll go the Yu-Gi-Oh format and give us a new protagonist in each region. The badge of a 25+ year run will always remain with Satoshi. As I was writing this, I couldn't help but to admire the series' way of keeping things fresh. I think that's the key to longevity. Whether or not I agree with every decision they've made here, Pokemon's had its undeniable longevity for a reason. It's a good lesson in trying new things out. Just maybe not blackface. That's it, a few things I believe you'll never see again in the Pokemon anime. If you enjoyed, please drop a like and sub, and we'll talk again soon.